Hi, in this video of the complete Cucumber course in Java, I'm going to show you all the ways to execute Cucumber feature files. Coming up. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm Nilton Santos and I am an Oracle certified Java developer with over 20 years of experience, and I am the founder of craftofprogramming.com. The craftofprogramming.com is an educational website focused on teaching general computer science topics, programming languages, and software tools. If this is the first time that you are here, then please subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so that you are informed every time I publish regular content. Also, leave a comment below and share this video with friends. Let's get started with today's lesson. Okay, so as you know, throughout the course, I have been executing feature files or scenarios just within the IDE, because I have a Cucumber for Java plugin. So there are basically a couple of different ways to execute within the IDE, and let's cover that. So the most straightforward way to execute a feature is by executing all the scenarios within the feature. So I've got here a feature file that we've been using, and basically if the cursor is at the feature, in the feature line, you basically right click and you just select this option Run, or Control-Shift F10 in Windows, and that executes the feature, meaning all the scenarios within the feature. So it executed the first and the second scenario, okay? So that's, and all the steps within it obviously were executed. You can instead execute just an individual scenario. You just basically have the cursor anywhere within the scenario, could be the scenario description or a step, and you basically just right click, and then notice that the context menu is already saying scenario search a book given its title. So as you see, it's executing only that scenario, okay? And obviously we can also do the same thing for this scenario, okay? As you see, that scenario got executed. So that's the simple ways that we can execute an individual scenario or all the scenarios within a feature. We can also, if we go to the project window in Intellij IDEA, we can right click on the select the name of the feature file, right click, and then run the feature. So these will again execute all the scenarios within that feature file. As you see, the two scenarios that we got were executed. Another way that you can execute features is basically executing all the features within a package. For example, we have, if I go to the edit configuration here, I had already created this, but let's exemplify. So let's say you have one existing run configuration, okay? So what you can do simply, you can just make a copy of that, and let's say I want to call run all feature files, okay? That's the name of the run configuration. And now the key thing here is to point the feature or folder path right here. Notice that this is pointing to an individual feature file. If you want to run all the feature files within a package, then what you need to do is you need to have this field point to the package instead of the feature file. Let's apply, click OK, and now if I execute the run all feature files, then all the feature files within the that package will execute. As you see, everything got executed, all the scenarios, okay? Everything. So notice here, if you take a look at the if you click on the top here, you see all the 14 scenarios, 67 steps ran in about 3 seconds. Within that run configuration, we can actually pass in, as I just showed you, some options to Cucumber. For example, there is one option called order, and it comes with basically you can change the order from the default order, which is basically alphabetically. We can just choose a reverse order or a random order. Let's, for example, run all our feature files within a package in the reverse alphabetically order. Okay, and let's rerun it. So notice that the feature files are being executed in reverse order. Okay. Okay. So now that we cover how to run, feature files using the support that the Cucumber plugin, effectively provides, another way is to use the JUnit runner. So JUnit basically supports a Cucumber runner, and one way that you can run is just create a public class, any name, and you use the annotation run with cucumber.class, and then use an annotation cucumber options. Cucumber options basically has a bunch of options that you can specify to run the Cucumber features. Now, in order for this to work, you have to have installed or specified, I should say, the Cucumber JUnit. Okay, you have to have that specified as a dependency within your build system. As I mentioned previously, I'm using Gradle, but if you are using Maven, for instance, which is obviously another popular build system in the Java ecosystem, then you have to use add the Cucumber JUnit as a dependency within your project. So if you have that dependency, then we can use JUnit runner to run our Cucumber features. So basically what I have here is this thing comes with a bunch of options. So you have all these options here. I will cover these options in more detail when I show you how to execute feature files from the command line. But very simply here, because I just want to show you all the ways. Basically, there are a bunch of plugins, built-in plugins that Cucumber comes packaged with, and pretty is just basically a nice way to print the output. I'll show you when I execute it. And then basically a glue, as you know, is the package where basically where the step definitions are defined. So remember that all our glue code, and remember, glue code is nothing but the implementations in Java of the Cucumber steps. All our classes are within the com.craftos programming package, so that's what I'm specifying here. And all the features are within source test resources, right? As you see here, source test resources, okay? So basically what I am specifying here is run all the features within the source test resources package, using these step definitions, and then print a nicely formatted output, if you will. So now how you run this? Well, we can just right click on the class and just do run Cucumber test. Okay. So notice that all of our features within this package source test resources were executed. Okay, and as I mentioned, because I'm using the Pretty plugin, notice that a nice summary, if you will, or description of each of the scenarios within all the features was printed. Okay, as you can see here. All right, so that's basically how all the available options to execute Cucumber features within the IDE. Now I will talk about perhaps the most common way that after you have a suite of Cucumber feature files that you would want to execute, which is from outside the IDE, from say command line. Now, maybe you have some continuous integration system going on. Jenkins or TeamCity, again, are very popular within the Java ecosystem. And you might want to, say, integrate your builds to run your Cucumber suite of tests, right? And in this case, you would want to have some way to run the files. Okay, so Cucumber comes with a runner called command line interface runner, which is basically a main file. I can show you here. So this is the command line interface runner that Cucumber comes packaged with. And you can, this is basically a main class in Java, so you can just pass point Java class path and pass this. But the problem is you would have to specify the class path with all the classes within your domain. So you really don't want to be managing this manually. So instead, what you can do if you're using Gradle is basically to define a Gradle task that effectively does the same thing. In other words, it basically launches Java, pointing to this Cucumber command line interface runner with the right, nice class path. So you don't need to worry about class path. It's a, Gradle task that has already the proper correct settings. Okay, and let's cover then a bunch of options here for you to see, all the powerful ways that you have to basically execute Cucumber features. So now I'm here in the command line. So basically you want to run that Gradle Cucumber task where your build.gradle is. Okay, so if you just run Gradle Cucumber, now notice that the arguments is just help. Okay, I basically want to show you what is the what does the command line interface runner of Cucumber provides. So notice that I'm just printed the usage of the Cucumber runner, and all the options that there are quite a bit of options here. I don't want to cover all the options. I just want to let's cover a subset of those options. So as I told you, glue is basically the package, or where you have all the step definitions for your Cucumber steps. And you can specify a plugin. We will cover a bunch of these options shortly. You can specify the number of threads that execute your scenarios, tags, which is a nice way, we haven't covered yet, but it's a nice way to basically group scenarios or features within categories. And quite a bit of other options. Name, just to point to specific names. You can do a dry run, which basically is useful if you want to know if there are all steps are defined, and so on. It's quite a bit of things. Order, we played with that before. Specify a different order than the default alphabetical order, and quite a bit of other options here. Okay, so let's cover a few of these options for you to get a flavor of how this stuff works. So let's go back here to our Gradle task, and for example, let's select this. So basically that's what you would do. Just run help so that you get the usage of the Gradle, so not of Gradle, of Cucumber command line interface runner, for you to have an idea of all the usage, all the options that it has. So as I said, we have a dry run option, which basically, as I say, is useful just for you to determine that all steps are defined. And as I said, glue is pointing to the package containing the step definition classes, and source test resources is the package where we have the features. So with these arguments passed into the main Cucumber class, then we're going to do a dry run of all our features. Okay, go back here and let's run. Okay, so as you can see, I ran the task Gradle Cucumber, and 14 scenarios, 67 steps. That's basically all our suite. So now let's do this. So here the only thing I'm doing is I'm basically adding the Pretty plugin, which provides, as I said, a nice summary, even if I'm using a dry run. So let's come to the command line and execute the Gradle task again. So as you see, this is basically what the Pretty plugin prints for our last run. Okay, so it basically prints in order the name of the scenarios and the steps. And in addition, I don't know if you can see here, it actually prints the actual step definition, fully qualified step definition name. Okay, and as you see, it's printing all the scenarios and all the steps. Okay, and notice that the parameters are also rendered in light green as opposed to dark green. So all of the steps, including so all of the scenarios, including the steps, are printed everything in order with the pretty print. Okay, so back to the IDE here, and now let's do an actual run. So remember, I was just doing a dry run. Now I'm going to do an actual run. Again, the same thing. So again, just Gradle Cucumber. The only thing I'm doing is I'm just playing with the arguments and different values of the arguments that I'm passing to the Cucumber command line interface runner. So then all of the scenarios pass, everything is green. And the difference between this and the previous one, I don't know, there is a little bit of a detail here, but one of the scenarios, which is this built-in parameter, actually does a bunch of system out, and that's basically what you see here in white. Okay, it's a bunch of system outs, and notice that the previous one, the built-in parameter types in Cucumber, this one, you see that it didn't print anything because it actually didn't, it was just a dry run. So what we have here, this is a few more options. Again, this is just examples to show you all the powerful ways that you have to pass, to basically run Cucumber feature files. So this one, what I'm doing is, instead of running all the feature files within my package, I am basically restricting it to just 2 feature files. So again, always running the same Gradle task. So notice that in this case, it only ran search a book with title and search for the most popular topic in my library. Okay, so see here that these are the 2 scenarios within the example with basic book queries.feature, and then I ran the example with scenario outline.feature, which, if you recall, I'm gonna show you again back in the IDE, has 4 examples. Okay, so that's what it ran. 6 scenarios, 26 steps. If you look here, examples with scenario outline, if I open this, okay, this is the scenario that has 4 examples, and that's why we got 4 scenarios. And obviously we also ran these 2 scenarios. Okay, so let's go back here and explore a few more options that I have here. So this one is just to show you that you can even go a bit more granular. So in the previous one, I ran basically 2 feature files completely, all the scenarios within that those 2 features. Here what I'm saying is, let me put this next to you for you to see. So let me maybe here, let me split this and move right. Again, we have 2 feature files. In the first feature file, I'm saying only run the scenario search a book given its title. Okay, just run this scenario. On the second feature file, let's open it. Okay, let's put it here. I'm saying just run the scenario simple example with a data table. So again, let's go back here to our command line and execute our lovely Cucumber Gradle task. And as you see, only the search the book with given its title and simple example data table were executed. Now let's go back to our lovely Gradle task and talk about threads. You don't have to necessarily execute everything within a single thread. So there is this threads command line option, which enables you to specify how many threads you want to execute your Cucumber features. Okay, so and the granularity is basically within the scenario. So what I have here is something, basically a few more options to give you a bit of a flavor. So what I'm saying here is I'm telling Cucumber, run this test with 2 threads. Okay, use the pretty plugin so that I can see a nice formatted output. In addition, what I'm saying here is I'm saying print a nice timeline of this execution, this parallel run. One thing that I want to mention here is the plugins. So let me just show you a nice way, for example, if you just type full, that you can know about the available built-in plugins. Okay, so just pass in an invalid name of a plugin, full or whatever, and run your Gradle task or Maven task or directly the command line interface run or whatever, it doesn't matter. And if you do that, the runner will tell you what are the valid values for that are supported by that particular version of Cucumber or Cucumber runner. So these are the actual built-in plugin names. Okay, so we've been using Pretty, and I'm going to introduce the timeline as well, and I'm going to talk a little bit about HTML as well. So go back here. What the timeline plugin does is it basically, as I said, takes in a directory where Cucumber will write a mini report where it shows you the timelines for each thread of the scenarios that each thread was executing and when. So beginning and end. Okay, so the rest is the same as the previous example. Obviously, let's put Pretty back and let's execute. Okay, so you can kind of see that there are two threads involved, because you see that things are being printed twice, right? So that's kind of a hint that there are two threads here, if you can see. Now, if you look at search a book given its title, if you look at this test, you will see that this feature file actually has a background section. So basically what's happening is one thread got this scenario and is executing it, and sort of in parallel, one thread is executing the first scenario and the other one is executing that. That's why you see, given my library is initialized by one thread, and then before this thread actually executes the next step, thread 1, thread 2 comes in and executes, the first step within the background, and so on. Okay, so that's basically what's going on here. Now, remember that plugin that I mentioned, the timeline plugin? Okay, so that's a timeline plugin for you. So obviously, it's not very fancy. As a matter of fact, it's pretty bad formatting, but it kind of maybe gives you a little bit of an overview of graphically what's going on. So you have basically one line per thread. You have one thread here and the other thread here, and this is basically the name of the feature and the scenario that this thread was executing, and the same thing here. And this is basically the timeline when it starts and when it ends. Now, one thing that it's really bad here is the second scenario. It's kind of got squashed here and you can't see anything. You can actually restrict by scenario. If you click there, you want to find when was that scenario executed and by what thread. So it's kind of highlighted there. This is the other one within the the basic example, basic book queries. And then the data table actually has the data tables feature had the actual data table, which got executed there, and then docstring got executed there. It's a little bit not great, but it is what it is. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop now. I hope that this lesson gave you a pretty good overview of all the different ways that you can execute Cucumber feature files. I'm Nilton from craftofprogramming.com. Thanks for watching. Ciao ciao.